Hello, everybody. I'm Mike,
And I'm Maria.
and this is TalkAlley.
Hi,
Yes, hi Maria.
Mike.
Happy Sunday, and
Yes.
happy Sunday also to our listeners and viewers. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of TalkAlley.
Mm-hmm.
We are very lucky. The weather turned out nice. It was raining the whole time,
Yeah.
but the sun came out.
I
So,
know.
how do
Thank
you
you. Thank
experience
you,
the
son.
weather? Yes.
I know it's unfortunate that the Philippines right now is going through another typhoon because in the western, I don't know, in the Visayas
Mhm.
area and northern area in the
Yeah.
country. And of course, the European Union donated around 500,000 euros to help those who are affected by the super typhoon Egay. I think Egay is the
Okay.
name. Yeah. And there are a lot of casualties, of course, and deaths. And we pray that everyone will continue to be safe,
Mhm.
of course, in the bad weather
Yes, we
that's
continue to
been happening
pray
in the Philippines.
and
There's
thank the
a lot of
European
flooding
Union.
as well. There's a lot of flooding as well in the Metro Manila area.
Mm.
So, yeah, guys, stay safe, everyone out there.
Yes, stay safe.
Yeah.
And happy announcement.
Oh yeah, of
Yes.
course we wanted to congratulate our dear friend Marco Reyes Camas. Of course, it's a very happy news, and in times like this, we really need some happy news, right?
Yes, that's
So,
true.
Marco, we're very happy for your engagement,
Yes,
and
congratulations.
congratulations, and we wish you all the happiness in the world.
Yes, all
God
the
bless you
best for the
both.
both of you. Yes.
And of course, Mike, my BFF, my friend Jessica is traveling right now to Scotland. Jessie, stay safe, stay happy travels to you and your family.
Regards.
Yes.
So,
And
yes, and
and
also
a
we
sad moment for the country, of
yes, but
course.
also proud. We
Yes.
today was the final game for the women's Philippine team. I'll try to put the picture up. Yes, here.
Yeah.
The
Woo.
Philippine national
Let's
team,
give them a round of
yes,
applause
played today,
for their efforts, of
and they
course.
gave everything. Yes,
Yes,
and we are very proud. So
exactly.
yes.
Yeah, and we are proud, but they now bowed down from the game of the 2023 FIFA's Women's
Mhm.
World Cup after, absorbing a massive defeat from Norway, 6-0. It was really, yes, sad, but they held their heads high. They
Yes.
really did their best, and we are so proud of it, of all of them. It's still an historic end because they are the first Filipinos to enter the World Cup.
Yes, that's yeah. That's
So
for the
with
male and the
one win
female.
and two
Yes,
losses, of course.
yes,
We are proud of you.
very
We are
proud.
so proud of all of you. Thank you very much for your hard work.
Yes. So
Okay. Mike, what's your favorite sci-fi movies or TV series? I know already.
yes,
I know it.
everyone will know when he sees my collection in my
Yes.
basement.
Oh my
So
god.
of course, starting off with Star Wars, then
Yes.
Star Trek, and the most
Mhm.
recent that I was is also Star Wars, but most
Mhm.
recent that I also recommend the listeners and viewers to watch is The Mandalorian. This is
Ah,
something I really liked. Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Star Wars, Star Trek, of course.
How about
It's
you?
me, growing up, I really enjoyed watching Daryl.
Mhm.
It's a film. It's called Data Analyzing Robot Youth Life Form. That's his name, actually.
Okay.
They called him Daryl,
Mhm.
but actually his name is, an acronym for something else
Mhm.
because it's an experiment. It's an AI, but in a child form.
Oh.
So he's Daryl, data analyzing robot youth life. But it really gave me an impact because it was really fun film. It's a sci-fi film. And now look at us.
Yes.
We're in a generation where the times where AI is being
Yes, AI is
developed.
surrounding us.
But that was a film during the 90s.
Okay.
So
Oh,
how amazing is
30 to
that,
40
right?
years ago.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
also like X Files, of course. When I was
Mhm.
younger, I used to watch it a lot on
Scully.
TV.
Okay.
And who would have missed The Matrix? The
Yes.
first film only.
Yes. I also like Neo doing his super moves.
I never tried watching the rest of the franchise.
Yes, you
Actually,
should.
I only watched the first, and that's basically
Okay. So, listeners and viewers, today we will be talking to a sci-fi author,
it.
and we will ask him about his thought process on his book. Of course, to all our listeners and viewers, please give us your feedback and opinion in the comment section.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so Mike, before we pursue before we pursue asking the or introducing our guest,
Mhm.
I have to cough.
Oh,
I'm so sorry, everyone.
have a
I
sip
have
of
an
water.
itchy throat right now,
Yes,
so
then I will take this one. So we will not forget. We will also be picking winners of the tickets to the Philippine Food and
mhm.
Culture Festival that will take place at Villa Flora in Munich on September 10th, Sunday. So please drop your comments in the comments section below. Yes, so you see if this one came up. I hope. Okay, the image is not coming up. I have to maybe there it is. So yes, the Philippine Food and Culture Festival that will take place in Via Flora in Munich on September 10th on a Sunday. So yes, it's going to be an exciting month. So for collaborations and sponsorship, please drop us a message via our page or email us at talkalley.original@gmail.com. And of course, you can also email us via this email and contact us also via our social media platforms. Before we introduce our guest, Maria, of course, this episode is brought to you by your door-to-door Balikbayan cargo and service here in Germany. Contact the reliable and affordable Filipino business Balikbayan and cargo terminal online store. They deliver to any destination in the Philippines. So call them or email them via welcome at filipino-business.de or just check out their website filipino-business.de for more information.
Information, of course. No, Mike, please do
Yes.
introduce our guest.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, our guest for today is a Filipino Australian IT professional who has an interest in sci fi fantasy films and writing stories.
Mhm.
So, playing League of Legends is his other pastime. He dreams of traveling the world and visiting places of interest related to science fiction and urban fantasy novels.
Mhm.
Welcome to Talk Alley, Mr. Renato Tranquilino. Hello, Renato. Thank you for
Hi guys.
joining us here today at
Yeah, it's a
Talk Alley.
pleasure.
Hi, hello.
Yeah, it's a
Thank you
pleasure
for
to be
joining
with
us
you
today.
guys. I can see it's really sunny there.
Yes.
Just
Yes,
kind
this
of in
is.
contrast here in Manila.
Oh,
It's a
you're
little
in
bit.
Manila right now.
Yep, yeah. I just got back from Hong Kong on Sunday, so that
Okay.
was another trip and a half. So it was really good. I
So,
was surprised when you guys were talking about your favorite sci-fi. No one mentioned Dark, which is a German sci-fi film there, sci-fi series. It ran for 3 seasons from 2019 to 2020, 21, and it was one of the most acclaimed sci-fi series in Germany. Uh,
Come again.
it,
What's the name of the sci-fi series?
Dark, Dark. If
dark.
you
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool the way they wrote it. It was minimal special effects, but the story is quite good. So I highly recommend that for all the German sci-fi fans that is wanting to see what they've got in what you guys have locally. So the Germans do come up with some really cool stuff, like cool sci-fi stuff.
it's
Okay.
it's actually the old films. It's actually the production. It's
Hmm.
always this way. It's also heavily influenced by the Western film and music here in Germany. So if you tune in the radio, you would understand it. Like
Mm-hmm.
majority of the music that's being played, the waves are mostly English. So they're pretty ironic, actually.
Okay. So, but before we start asking our first question, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
throw in a short ad. Here it
Sure.
Yes.
comes.
Yep.
SMDC.
A quick dip just outside.
Grocery needs? Just a short stroll.
Coming home just a ride away.
Live closer to the things that matter to you. Premier living within reach at Light 2 Residences from SMDC.
So you have already mentioned a little bit, but we also have this storm or the super typhoon going around. How is the weather currently in your area?
Yeah. You're
Well,
in Metro Manila.
yeah, I'm in Manila, so it's not so bad here. But if you go in the coastal regions, like for example, Visayas and Mindanao, like in those areas, the coastal regions, they kind of get hit hard. Now, the weird thing, I mean, these are sort of things that they used to think of as sci-fi back in the 80s and 90s, is a storm, like your superstorms, how it will suddenly become really strong, like from signal one to super typhoon. Well, that happened. Like I think that happened like a couple of years ago, and so now whenever there's a storm coming and it's signal one close to us, in like just as it's about to hit the coast, the government now basically evacuates immediately, as if it treats it like it's already a superstorm, because somehow the way the typhoons now, they can go from signal one to super typhoon within 24 hours. Before it used to go signal one, and then after 24 hours signal two, and then signal three, then signal four. So you got plenty of time to evacuate people.
Yes.
But nowadays they can't predict them anymore. So I guess it's the change in climate and all that sort of stuff. So warming up the oceans. And so yeah, you get these typhoons that just go from one to super within less than 24 hours.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Yes,
that's
but this change is felt globally. We had, for example, a week ago we had very extreme weather conditions, whereas in Athens, it's
yeah.
really it's closing down the sites, and
Yeah.
like in Madrid. But here in the center of Europe, we currently have a low pressure. And as you can see, after 3 days of rain, we are experiencing a hot heat wave, and it's about to rise again. So this is a drastic change in the temperature and the weather conditions. And yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you guys tend to suffer a lot when it comes to summer. Someone was telling me when I was talking to somebody in Frankfurt, it's like the Europeans are never really prepared. They never really prepared their houses for summer. It's very well maintained in terms of heating during winter, but
yes,
with the hot summers, it's just it's not conducive the way houses are set up, and so they suffer quite a bit. So I don't know if that's going to change, but I guess that's something for the government to address in the near future as the weather changes or continually
I think
change.
it is. It is being addressed as well. As we have mentioned in the past shows, that the government is actually looking into that, especially the summer and the rainy season, because a lot of tragic incidents also happened.
Yes.
Flooding a
yes.
year ago.
Next year ago, yes.
So yeah, they're also mobilizing the
Yeah.
government into pursuing those, and we are very active in helping in terms of climate change.
Yes.
So
Yep.
yeah.
Yes, but enough said
So-
about global warming. We go straight.
Let's go straight to
Yes,
the
go
topic.
straight to the
So,
topic.
Renato, how do you define science fiction? Just for the interest of the viewer.
I have a very flippant way of defining it, so I don't know if people are they might get upset. But anyway, I say that science fiction is really like K-drama with spaceships. So that's probably to best explain the sci-fi. And the reason for that, even though it sounds flippant, the reason for that is there's an underlying common denominator with sci-fi, and usually that's humans. And with humans, they kind of repeat the same mistakes over and over again over a cyclical period of time. And so when you talk about like an incident, say even 1,000, 2,000 years from now, you could bet that it's gonna be based on something that's happened like in the past. Case
Mm.
in point, 100 years ago, we had like a pandemic that
Mhm.
killed a lot of people, like half the population or something. We had the plague, and also and all that. So that seems to happen like cyclically, and yet we
Mhm.
don't learn from it. And the only thing that the the pandemic does is it makes the virus stronger 100 years later. So, like, so sci-fi, you can almost predict what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like,
and
making your brain imagines things into the
Mm.
distant future in relation to science and technology,
Mm.
yeah,
advancement of
yeah,
science
I
and
think
technology.
the
Exactly.
technology is not even so important. I mean, you can kind of be haphazard about applying the tech. Because a lot of people ask me, so how do you write
Mm.
sci-fi? Blah blah blah. I think the most important thing is understanding human nature and what they're going to do in the future. So if you study the current events now and what we're doing
Mm.
to one another, you can bet that unless there's a drastic change in psychology of humans, we're still going to be repeating the same issues like 3,000 years from now.
Mm.
So that's why I guess, like, as we go deeper into the book, I mean, I address those things. It's kind of like a cautionary tale of what you might encounter in the future. And one example I give is, if you think like corruption is bad now, if we keep going the way we're going into the future, you wouldn't believe how much corruption is going to be like then if we start mining things from the asteroid and all that, having cities in the moon, where there's less governance because it's going to be like the new Wild West. How do you think like how do you think people are going to behave, with all this newfound wealth?
Yes.
That's right.
Again, you can go
That,
back to history on how we address those issues. So yeah, it's kind of sobering, as well as, like, yeah, it's hopeful. But there's we sci-fi writers, I guess, try and write to show people, yeah, okay, well, you know try and learn from our writing so that this doesn't happen in the future. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
true. So that brings us also to our next question, Ren. What makes a good sci-fi story?
uh you know Stories are so subjective. I mean, I class
Mm.
myself as a storyteller more than a writer. I mean, a
Mhm.
writer is somebody I define as very well versed in how to construct sentences and paragraphs, and they go through lots and lots of courses. They win awards for writing, and then when they pen something, it's like perfect grammar, perfect this and that, and the flow. um, a story is something that you can tell a kid, you can tell an adult, you can tell a really really old person, and they get it. Like it's easy to remember, and it's fun to listen to. And I guess part of that as well too is how you relay the story. So in all the things, I think we're segueing into my way of writing stories. It's like I always in my head complete the story. It's like I'm watching a movie, and then I break it up into bits. And so that's how I kind of approach most of my stories. It's like I already know the beginning, the middle, and the end, and so when I write it, it's like I'm breaking up the scenes, in breaking it up into scenes. I watch a lot of sci-fi's. I mean, I can relate to Mike's Star Wars, Star Trek collection. I mean, I was such a poor kid when I was growing up, so I never had that. So I could only imagine the kind of toys, like, that I would have liked to have had. So when you're writing, when you write something, for me, it's like I started off being a script writer first, and I found my love for doing sci-fi when I became an AD for a sci-fi film that we shot in New York. Because I worked there for 8 years in Manhattan as an IT guy. So I was like moonlighting as a film guy. So I always wanted to see my script on the big screen. So, but of course, to do that, you have to get funding, and it's very expensive to get funding for sci-fi. So I kind of switched from script writing to writing a book. But my book
Mhm.
is done in a way that it should be easy to put on the screen, and so that's why my process is still kind of like I visualize the movie in my head, and then I write it down in the form of a book. So if you can imagine that, so it's like if you like the episode 4 of Star Wars, and everybody loves episode 4 of Star Wars, so you can almost repeat that and tell someone how it works, like and the spaceships battling it out, blah blah blah.
Mm.
So like I imagine my stories to be that simple, and that fun to read and experience. So that's a kind of thing I want to impart on my readers when they read my story. So I hope that if that makes sense. So
Yes.
and specifically I specialize in Pinoy sci-fi, so I want the world to enjoy Pinoy sci-fi. Sorry.
Why do you think people find science fiction so fascinating?
Well, I mean, I'll have a little correction on that. Not everyone finds sci-fi fascinating.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Partly because sci-fi requires you to have a bit of imagination. Okay, and true sci-fi writers, they don't have pictures in their books, and so there is a certain level of expectation when you're reading a sci-fi book that you can imagine the landscape, the smell, the types of ships that they're using, the engines. I'm kind of pushing back a little bit from that. So I'm not your traditional sci-fi guy. I have illustrations in my book to help the reader that's just getting into sci-fi to understand like my concepts. So that's where I'm a little bit different. And also the first book that I wrote for sci-fi is geared up for the masses here in the Philippines because they like to read small novels, and so I had to make it small and illustrated, partially illustrated, just so they can get into sci-fi. Because as you know, in the 70s, sci-fi is very big in the Philippines, and then in the 80s, it kind of dropped off, and they started to move into drama and all this sort of stuff.
Mm.
So then it disappeared, like kind of not became not commercially viable to do, and so it went underground. So you have a lot of good sci-fi writers. I mean, one of the ones that I know, Dean Francis Alfar. I mean, he's written quite a number of books. There's also Keith Sikat, who actually directed a great sci-fi, Pinoy sci-fi film called Alimuom. Um, but other than that, there's no real defining sci-fi movie that you can pinpoint as like you would pinpoint Star Wars or District 9 and say, hey, that's a Pinoy sci-fi. Other than what you have right now, which is Keith Sikat's Alimuam, there's nothing that comes to mind that's like sci-fi. There's fantasy stuff, like Pagbabalik ng Panday and all that, which is Lino Broca and all that was back in the 70s. And they were great, but after that, there was really not that many that followed in his footsteps. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell. It's like people like sci-fi because of what they could learn about the future, like how people
Mhm.
could see the future based on like events that are happening now and projected, say 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years in the future. So some people find that nice, but other people would kind of find it, it's too far away. I'll be dead by then. So, you know,
Yeah,
but
as
yeah.
earlier I was relating to Mike actually when I was watching Daryl, and it was shown in the 90s. The film was shown in the 90s, I think, and it's an acronym for Data Analyzing Robot Use Life Form. In that film, they were talking already about even artificial intelligence
Mm-hmm.
in the form of a child. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a science fiction that was really interesting. It really, growing up, I really remembered that film. So now we are living in a society where they are AI focused. Everything is, they want to learn more or enforce or
Mm-hmm.
implement AI in their workspaces, in the
Yeah.
World Wide Web, and everywhere we go, they want
Yes.
to adopt AI. They want to learn more about it. So, a story in the past, imagined by someone, can actually be a reality in the future.
Yes, and everyone thought like AI, like something artificial intelligence. Back then, 30 years ago, everyone's
Yeah,
like, what?
Too far
And
away. Yeah. Like,
yes,
it's crazy.
and
yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Um, I think what you'll find with AI is like a lot of the technology that we have now, like they've been pioneered probably 30, 40 years ago, but they
True.
just don't talk about it much, or, it's in development, so no one pays much attention until it becomes commercial. Usually the military would use it first and then it gets filtered down to us. But with AI, one of the benefits of it that companies see is um, automation, really, like saving money. We're still in that mode that everyone wants to save money. I mean, that's why you have that problem with the um, with the actors in Hollywood. They don't want their faces scanned, blah blah blah.
Mm,
Uh, because they know that their time is almost up, because as soon as you got quantum computers coming in and driving systems and whatnot, they're going to be able to generate humans from nothing, like on the big screen. Like right now, I'm using this program called GenCraft, and I can generate realistic pictures of that's kind of I'm describing in the book. you know um it's really hard to stop progress if you can if you can swallow that statement. It's uh, the thing is, how do we survive it? And this is where sci-fi folks are going to have to really work hard to come up with options for the human race to entertain. This is where
It's
we can
funny.
help.
You mentioned that because it's like, yeah, us, we're all from the IT community. We're both software engineers as well. And, in school before, they would create a competition
Hmm.
for someone to create a virus that would be able to, antivirus, to be able to kill the virus that the school has created.
Yeah.
It's what you mentioned, that these writers are creating what could destroy us, and also the solution for people to avoid it.
yes.
Yeah,
It's
it's kind of insane. Like, yeah,
yeah, it's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
the way humans think is just kind of yeah, let's invent this thing first. Oh, it broke half of us. It's
It
like,
will
okay, let's go and
destroy
fix it.
Mm.
So, okay, I have a curious question. What
Sure.
images spring to mind when you hear the word science fiction? I mean, how do you relate these images to your?
Well, I grew up in it, and so and my uncle, rest his soul, like kind of introduced me to it from when I was a kid. Sci-fi, like to me, basically is uh, asking the question, where would you like to be? Um, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, like and gearing up, preparing yourself like for when that time comes. Um, you may never see that moment when like flying cars are hovering above your head, but you keep an eye out and you're happy that there are people that are designing things that are going to visualize your future. And I guess for me, I look at I've lived in Australia, I've lived in New York, and now I'm living in the Philippines. I'm looking at the Philippines and Southeast Asia to see how sci-fi, science fiction, or science in the future would impact these countries. It's pretty exciting. I mean, I'm just surprised that no one has ever done a movie that's like encapsulates like how these countries would develop. And so I'm starting with, like, of course, since I'm here, I mean, I'm living here, then I thought, okay, let's give Pinoy sci-fi a shot. What does Pinoy sci-fi look to you? That sort of thing. And for me, it's a bit like Blade Runner, um, the old mixing with the new. I mean, if you're gonna say Blade Runner, I think what's gonna happen is Southeast Asia is gonna be like Blade Runner City.
Okay.
Um, and with all the major corporations being here, that sort of thing, they can do whatever they want and do their experiments and away from all the first world regulations, that sort of thing. I get the feeling that that's what's going to happen.
Okay. Ren, who inspired you to write?
Okay, it's sheer desperation that really has switched to writing, because I couldn't get the funding to do my film. I wanted to do a sci-fi film, but I couldn't. I couldn't do it, so I figured I would learn to write. So when I learned to write, I converted first the script and then turned it into a book. And so I had to get help from an editor.
Mm.
Yeah, Georgette. Hi, Georgette. I'll forget her name. Georgette Alvarez, I think. Lovely girl. And I remember she was telling me at one point, stop being a director, be a writer. Because the way you write a script is very different to how you would write a book. So that's the training I had to try and switch from. Um, and it's more about character feelings and this and that,
Mhm.
and it's just more descriptive of like the environment, but not so much into great detail in terms of what they're wearing, where the lighting is coming from, that sort of thing.
Okay.
The speed, the pace of how you write things so that the reader doesn't get bored. um, so that's kind of how okay, if I'm watching a movie and I want it, and it's a movie I like because the pace is fast, that's how I like my books to be. Right. So I have people now that I'm also working, and so there is money coming in. I'm not totally dependent just on my book. So I can hire like an editor or a beta reader to tell me, is this fast, slow? Is this what do you think of this like
Yeah.
sequence? So then I adjust it, so that when people are reading it, they want to keep turning the pages and to read that sort of thing. So say, yeah, I gear my books up so that it's kind of like a fun ride.
Okay. And then besides science fictions, have you also tried writing other genres?
Yes, I did.
You
um,
did. What
I,
kind
uh,
of book?
I I wrote the first book I ever wrote was in 2019, and that was an urban fantasy, and it was a little bit. I designed it in a little bit like Interview with a Vampire. Um,
Oh,
Hmm.
okay, so it's kind of like that, but the premise of the story was how the bloodline of Christ ended up in the Philippines, and in how all this evil stuff followed it and threatened to destroy Manila for the second time in 2017. So it's very good and evil kind of battle, and it spans a whole range of timelines, like going back to Adam and Eve and the battle of the gods, and like the first children of God, and how there was a rebellion, that sort of thing, and that was even before Lucifer was thrown into hell, blah blah blah. So there was a whole gamut of these backstories, and then it starts off in Germany in 1942, and then from there how it traveled to the Philippines, and there are all these like dates, specific dates, that when my co-writer and I wrote it, and I had to get her to review it several times. She said, wait, always she would say, wait, I have to reset my brain to read this thing, because it reads so true with the backstories that it messes her up. And then I had people sort of reading it and then saying I couldn't finish it because it's like screwing my brain with all the factual events that have backstories. So anyway, that's the first edition. I'm rewriting it for the second edition. So and adding a little bit more things to it. But that should, I'm hoping that it can be released at the Frankfurt Book Messe in 2023. I think NBDB has been dying to release it, and I've told them no, not to do it yet. So I wanted to finish the second edition before. But that one is really exciting. I'm actually creating a comics out of that because it's too long to read. It's over 500 pages. So
Okay.
Wait, you mentioned Frankfurt. You were here. We were there. We didn't meet. We didn't cross paths. So unfortunate.
yeah, that's so yeah, that's I couldn't stay long because I only just started with
Oh,
Cisco
no.
Philippines, so I couldn't keep traveling, and so like,
Mm.
but next time I'm hoping
Hopefully
like
we see you
to
next time, of
Yes.
yeah,
course. And
but no, mhm,
fate of let's talk about your
sure,
book,
yeah,
Fate of a Distant Future.
right, yep,
Yes, this is the book, and
yep,
yeah,
thank you,
this is your first published science fiction book.
that's correct, yeah,
Okay, so how did you prepare for this book in terms of research? Because
ah,
the
okay,
book is about a senator who was I actually wrote it on our page. It's very interesting and
okay, yep.
yeah,
So
very
it's an
in a way.
anthology. It's
Yeah.
basically an anthology, and so but then all these four stories kind of closely link with each other, and
Mm,
it talks about how a country like the Philippines became a planet colonizing country with
mm.
much trial and tribulation along the way. Um,
Okay.
so
We,
I've discussed
the one
certain things.
colonizing.
Yeah, so we are the one colonizing this time, and the
Amazing.
thing, yeah, and the problem we had with doing that is we had to violate like planetary rules, and be threatened with sanctions, if we didn't basically comply, and we didn't comply, and there was anyway,
We're always
it's
like that. We don't comply.
well, the thing is, I mean, it's a little bit rebellious in some stories, whereby I've always believed that if you were to keep following, then you will never become a leader.
It's
So,
robotic, of course.
yeah, right. So,
Then then you become a robot if you keep on just following. Rebellion is also good in terms of if you're rebelling for the betterment of the of all. You
yes,
know,
and you must be
the good
consistent. I think if there's
exactly.
anything that we could learn from the Germans, it's that they are very consistent and they're very precise, and I think
Are they?
that that is something that is something that we probably would be good to adapt to adopt as a strategy for when we go off world. Um, so the story talks about how we handle public what is it, the disasters, typhoons, how we handle those badly.
Mm.
And so I'm trying to think like, okay, so what happens when we have a trifecta of say, for instance, the earthquake, the typhoon, and then the pandemic.
Wow.
What do you do then? And then it destroys
Mm.
Manila. Like
Everyone's
then you,
survival.
yeah, how do we survive? Like, because we can't always rely on donations. Like your entire financial city
Yes,
is
we're always
ruined.
donation focused.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we have to change that. So I guess in one of the cautionary tales, I talk about that in the in one of the stories.
Mm.
The way we approach lack of research in this country, well, it's not an approach.
Mm.
It's like we have a lack of research, and so that has to change.
Senator
And
laughing about research.
well, we there are people there are people that are there that are willing to do the research, but they can't be funded because the funding is being withheld and diverted to something else. So
Because they don't believe in research. If you have
um,
representation like that,
it's
right?
about quick gains. It's like,
Mm.
the whole thing is about quick gains. What can you get money from? What can you get benefits from real quick? Research is never like that. Okay, so
Mm.
research can take anywhere from 5, 10, 15 years to blossom.
Decades. Yes.
So, like, can they wait that long? Well, the terms of the presidency is like every 6 years, and then it
Mm.
changes. So, why would they care? You know, that
Exactly,
sort of
because
thing.
they want something promising that would lift them into a better position.
Yeah, I think like
Dragging
gone.
money into that research.
Yeah, I was thinking like if they can learn what they did like with the remember in America, like California used to be so dry, and then they pumped the water from Denver into California just so they could have water and become somewhat livable. That took several decades to complete, and each of the presidents always supported that grand plan. Okay, irrespective of who came on, there was always money for that project. So if we do something like that, might be good. Like for the Philippines, especially for something like space launch sites, infrastructure, that sort of thing. Now, if
Oh,
every
yeah.
subsequent president would support that, irrespective of which
Exactly.
which party they're in, then we might have a shot at like getting like having a better future in terms of advanced tech. Um,
Yes, that is something missing in the country. Actually, when you were talking about Germany earlier, in Germany, they learned their lesson. So they try to move forward. What happened
mhm,
in the past, they make sure that the next generation will not repeat it again, repeat the
mhm,
mistakes. That's why they are being taught early in school, just like our kids.
mhm,
In
Yes.
school, they are taught about the Holocaust, of what the
mhm.
things that happened in the past that ruined the country. So that is something that the Philippines need to learn. We need to learn
Yeah,
us and not do it again. But we
yeah.
keep repeating our mistakes. That's so horrible. Yeah. Anyway, so do you think? I think the Filipinos. Actually, I do not have to ask the question. I think the Filipinos can really relate to your book, but it's
I
a
hope so.
positive. It's a positive thing that's going to happen in
Mm.
the book. Like it's something that they cannot imagine conquering other countries, right?
Yes.
That's amazing for me. It's we have been conquered for how long? For Spain.
Spain, 444 years, was it?
Yes.
There's,
Uh,
I think for us, it's not so much like the book. It's not about conquering like countries, but rather conquering terrestrial planets or a lump of rock
sure,
in
right?
space. So that because we need food. I mean, they're predicting that in the next 30, 40 years or something, food is going to be the prime commodity, like in of the world, because there's so many people that needs to be fed. Um, and I think a place like Mindanao, oops, sorry.
That's okay. Happens all the time.
Oh,
So, okay.
I think we lost Ren
We
here.
lost Renato.
Renato.
You're talking about someone else.
No, he was his name was there in Ren, REN only.
Ah, okay.
So yeah,
Ren.
I actually wanted to ask him about if the Filipinos going to be like the only ones on Earth. Or
But we're going to buy the book, of course.
Yes.
We will ask him later on where people can avail of the book, and I'm already excited of it.
Sorry.
On that part only already attracts
Mm.
me to
Yeah.
to tell people to yes discover this book, read this book, and I really want to know. I'm in
Yes.
suspense already. What will happen to the
Yeah,
Filipinos in the
I have
future?
actually so many questions, but I don't want to
No,
like
you have
spoil
to
the
buy the
listeners and
book.
viewers. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah.
And what do you think are the other aspects that Filipinos can relate to this book?
Um. Okay. So, like I said, I wrote this specifically for uh 16, 17 years old. Like they could read this and be able to understand it. The English is simple enough. It's not an issue. Like it's not like high fluting kind of words that they often use in sci-fi. So this is, and also you've got the images there that to help you understand the concepts I'm talking about. Um,
Was it you hired an illustrator for your book? Who's the illustrator?
I'm sorry.
You
Oh
have an
no, a
illustrator for your book
translator.
who
No, no.
illustrate.
Oh, illustrator. Yes. I have two local illustrators that I was working with in terms of illustrating the
Mhm.
book. That was only because when I did the actual landscape drawing on the inside cover of the book, that took me 2.5 weeks, and it was like 9 panels of drawing. So I said after that, nah, bago this, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just gonna outsource the drawings. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, illustration is really, really hard. I know
yeah,
that.
yeah, it is, and I didn't
So
want to spend like a
do
whole
and
two
animate
years.
exactly 2 years.
Um, well, if I really wanted to do it right with all the images, then I would have taken my time to do it. So I would have done a lot more drawings, and so that could easily
Mm.
take, well, I mean, not 2 years. It'll probably take me several months at least.
Wow. Okay.
So but I think in terms of relating to the book, when they read it, um, I like history as well too, so they can relate to the historical bits that are in there, and so then it helps them helps them connect the stories that I'm describing in the book to the present day. Um, so that's a kind of thing I sort of am hoping that they would they would connect with in terms of the book, the fact that the stories are relatable.
We love science here and at home, and you love books, and you're starting to create a book club here on TalkAlley. We've actually guested a lot of book authors already, local book authors in the country, and we really support them, and also artists. And we want to show the world that what we are always stereotyped in doing is not always us. We can do
Hmm.
more, and we have people like you who have amazing imagination. It's just unimaginable, but you can create these amazing things um, for the fate of a distant future for the country, for the
Yes.
Filipinos, and
I
we hope everyone reads it.
yes. I do want to know. Just you don't have to answer this. Are we going to travel in a Dyson sphere?
Hey.
It depends on how the Dyson sphere is constructed, though. Um, I think I think we have to get to the moon first before we can do that, because then we can conduct better experiments when we don't have like the gravity, so much gravity, and and all the other things that interfere with experiments when you do it on Earth. So I think that, well, even earlier than that, first it has to be a space elevator, and then from the space elevator, then they're gonna have to get either to the moon to build stuff, or it's gonna be a race between the moon and Mars in terms of which one's gonna get colonized first. But
I think
um,
moon is
yeah,
a option
I
actually. We did a moon. What did we do for ESA?
A Moon Explorer challenge.
Yeah, a moon
mhm.
explorer challenge, and we're probably getting there soon because
Yeah, and you probably
we
see
build things.
Filipinos. Yeah, you probably see Filipinos going to the moon as well too. That's going to be a surprise for everyone, but to me, that's not. It's a done thing because
Mm.
you're going
Mm.
to need workers, and
Yes,
as you know, like we have a lot of OFWs.
efficient reward.
Yeah, so the way things happen with OFW, that's exactly what's going to happen with people going to the moon. They're going to use Filipinos to assist in the work over there and construction. So yeah, so it's a done thing. We just have to make sure that we prepare, like the government starts to prepare now. And I think to some extent, the current president is mobilizing the space division of the Philippines
We
to start
already
getting things
have
going.
for the current president because we interviewed one of the heads for the Philippine space industry.
There you go. Yeah. So
We
they're aware. They're
yeah,
starting. Yeah, they're starting to wake up, and well, they've been awake for a long time. I think now you're gonna see probably a lot more investment in terms of space exploration, because that's
yeah,
really the final frontier for us.
yes, and I'm looking forward to it
Yeah.
because we do work. Both of us work in the space industry. That's why the interest. So
Right. Yep. There you go. Excellent. Excellent.
okay, so where can people avail of your book,
Okay.
especially those who are living abroad?
Okay. If you're abroad, I'm in Amazon,
Mm.
so they can get it from Amazon. But if you're in the Philippines, you can get it from Lazada or Lazada and Shopee, I believe.
Mhm.
But just be
Okay.
careful. There are people that are like starting to sort of pirate, not pirate, but they're jacking up the price on it.
Replicate?
It's
Oh, Jack.
only in the Philippines. It's 475, I believe. Yeah,
Yes.
it's 475 right now, pesos. In Amazon, I think it's 11 or 10 or 11. I can't remember. So Amazon is good to buy for people abroad. Um, and in the Philippines, for anyone that's watching this, it's 475 right now. So
I'm definitely getting one. So when we meet on the next book fair, you can sign it for me.
yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. If you can share some advice with the young generation of writers now, the young blood, what would it be?
Finish your story. Don't
Yes.
don't just talk about it. Finish it. And then once you've finished it, write it. Make sure you finish writing it, because I hear a lot of people that come up to me and they want to be right. They want to write and go, oh yeah, I got this fantastic story, blah blah blah, and halfway through it, and I just couldn't get it done. It's like, well, get it done,
Mhm. Yeah.
because
Writer's
it's not.
block or something? Yeah. They
No,
have that.
I don't know. I guess they're just looking for motivation, like to finish it. And I say, that's your product. That's the product of your imagination. And every story has a market. And there's like 8 billion people in the world. And so, your story is unique. Any story you write, whether it's poetry, like, drama or sci-fi, I mean, someone's going to want to read it. And your story is going to inspire that person, and it's up to
That is
you to
correct.
want to do that. But the fact that everyone has a story, not very many would actually take the time to write it. um,
That
I
that
mean,
is correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because for science fiction, there are already actually people who are interested. I experienced that because I tried to publish a book, and I'm not even interested during that time with poetry, but I published a book for a friend. I helped that friend to publish a book, and there's actually a market for people who are interested in poetry, and
Hmm.
Yeah.
prints were sold out. So it's amazing. And yes, you are right. They should finish their work and be inspired from the work of others as well.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Let it be an inspiration.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What that is doing exactly.
Yeah. Everyone is an inspiration. Everyone's got a story, but
Mm.
very few would take the time to write it down, and that's the sad thing. But hopefully, something like ChatGPT AI will make it easier for people to get their stories out, and then
There's
they
a
can spend.
controversy on that, and that's another topic.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
chat
I mean,
GPT AI, generated images and all that. Yeah.
yeah,
Anyway,
ChatGPT is just like money. It's neither good nor bad. It's how it's used.
Hmm.
Like, so that's the way I see it. It's like a loaded gun. A loaded gun is not gonna kill ya. It's just, it can be used as
Yes.
defense, or it can be used for something vile. But it's
mm,
just a gun, or it's just money.
correct.
Yeah. So
It's like what my
ChatGPT is,
grandfather said. Everything that's too much, can be
yeah,
poisonous,
Hmm.
correct.
can
Yeah,
kill you. Yeah,
yeah.
even
But I
poison
mean,
taken at a little amount will not kill you.
yeah. I mean, if you have a topic about AI and stuff like that, like, I'll be happy to join again, because I mean,
Yay!
I have my views on it, that and it certainly is very helpful in what I do in writing. And
Yeah, I'm
there
actually
was.
tempted to invite the photographer, the German photographer who had an issue with, I think, Nikon
Yes. Yeah.
for winning the AI generated photo that he
Hmm.
submitted. Anyway, I'll probably reach out to him soon.
Hmm.
And that
Yeah,
would be
AI
definitely a
is.
wonderful topic. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's gonna
So,
come down to this. It's because of, like, you as a human. It has
yeah.
Your products will have to be tacked on to you and how well you market your product, because an AI cannot market to a human. Everyone will just say, yeah, you're AI. I mean, you're not human, but they will always listen to a human. So if you generate a product, whether it's AI generated or not, it's how well you sell it. Like, who you talk to, how well you talk to people, that sort of thing. So the future, I mean, if you can call it the future, has to be that younger generations now has to learn to relate to people more, because the products that they create is gonna the success of that will depend solely on how well they interact with other people, the decision makers. It's not gonna be AI that they're gonna have to convince. It's the guys that are gonna sign the checks, the guys, the humans.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
gonna be AI that will sign your check.
Yes.
So, those people that are like geeky, that they just stay in the computer and they think that's their world. No, that thing is gonna go away. You have to be able to relate to humans. I think that's the pendulum swinging on to the other side. So
Okay. Thank you for your insights. And
yeah,
before we end our talk, let me ask you a few fun questions. They
sure.
are have nothing to do with our topic or with your
Mhm.
work. Just questions that we ask all the guests during the show.
Yes, every episode we ask this
Yes.
question.
So for the
So,
first question, if you were a flavor, what would you be and why?
Vanilla, because
oh,
Hmm.
I can
classic.
be kind of
Okay.
boring.
Oh, it's a classic. You can match it with
Classic.
anything.
There
Yeah.
you go. Because I'm old. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
If you
Cool.
have a superpower, what would it be?
Flying.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
You're trying to save money because you're a flyer.
Yep. Like to
Very
visit many
extra.
places. Yep.
Okay. If you were given a chance to speak to anyone living or dead, who would it be?
Michelangelo,
Ooh,
Yep.
really?
because he is just a fabulous inventor, and he had so many ideas. And if he's busy, then I'll probably stick with Tesla, Nikolai.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And the
Tell him
final.
about Elon. Anyway, and the final question. If you were to describe your life in a song right now, what song would it be? And you have to sing it.
God.
It's
um,
actually good.
Johnny Be Good.
What
Ooh,
song?
Go,
The
go,
song
Johnny
go,
Be
Johnny
Good.
go, Johnny Boo. Go, Johnny, go, go, go. Go,
Oh,
Johnny, go, go. Johnny Be Good. He's
oh,
Oh,
playing
thank
thank
you
you
guitar.
so
so
much.
much. Thank you, Renato. It was a really fascinating conversation.
Thank you for
And of
being with
course,
us.
yeah,
No worries. Thank
we have
you.
to have you back again on Talk Alley.
Maybe for the AI
Uh,
topic.
Yes,
yeah,
and
sure. Thank you for
yes.
having
We
me,
wish
Mike
you all the
and
success.
Maria.
And of course, we're buying your book soon. Thank you so
Oh,
much for
thank
being.
you. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you, all the fans of Talk Alley watching, and Mike and Maria. Thanks again, like for having me on your show.
Thank you,
Okay. See you next
Renato.
time. Have a nice evening there.
You too, Mike. Like, have a good
Bye.
day.
Bye.
The rest of the day. Yeah. Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye.
So,
Yeah, so it's easier for me to buy it because it's on Amazon.
mhm.
So ordering it as soon as this is done. And they want to know what the Filipinos will do in the future.
As we will know, and listeners and viewers, you can avail again this book on Amazon
Yes, on
if you
Amazon.
are yeah, ordering from abroad.
From
So
abroad and Shopee and
Lazada.
Lazada if you're in the Philippines. And
Yes.
of course, do support our local artists, writers, authors, performers, and try to avail of this book. I'm already curious. I'm definitely reading this and reading it to my kids. Fate of a Distant Future.
Yes.
What will our fate be in the distant future, Mike? I would always ask them zombie apocalypse, but it never occurs to us that there's another possibility that tech androids,
I was going to take
or
over.
take over the world. It's not the
Mhm.
zombie, it's probably the robots.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what Renato is like. Already, we're locked in going to the moon because we always help.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So, for the listeners and viewers, what do you think is going to be the fate of humanity? Just post them in the comment section.
Yes, and
Yes.
if you have inquiries regarding
Mm.
SMDC or the Balikbayan
Balikbayan Pinoy online store.
Pinoy, Balikbayan Pinoy online
Yes.
store, please send us a message. And of course, we're going to pick a winner for the event in Munich.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
And we will message you if you win.
yes.
Okay. Thank
So,
you very much.
again, thank you
everybody.
for joining us today in this very interesting episode of Talk Alley.
Yes.
Have a nice Sunday and a good start in the next week. This is Mike,
This is Maria.
and this is Talk Alley. Bye.